Thanks everyone, thanks Christina, thanks to Stuart, Jackson, the RIU team here. It's a pleasure to be in front of everyone in Sydney again. We've been busy over the past 12 months, and for anyone new to the story, I'd like to walk you through Hammer Metals and where we sit as a company. We're exploring two of the world's great mineral provinces in the Yandal belt in Western Australia, and more importantly for copper and gold in the Mount Isa province, one of the world's largest great base metal provinces. In terms of our portfolio there, we've spent a decade building a quality portfolio that includes copper and gold assets, some 5 JORC resources, in excess of 400,000 tonnes of copper equivalent metal already defined there. We're making recent copper discoveries in Queensland, and importantly within a team that has made world-class discoveries previously and added value for shareholders along that journey. We're looking forward to the coming 12 months of which we're fully funded for our projects. In terms of the company, current market capitalisation of $82 million with $6.4 million in the Treasury at 31 March. Our top 20 shareholders account for over 50% of our register, and importantly our directors hold 13% in the company. So they're technically aligned, they're financially aligned, and a lot of our shareholders have previously participated and worked with the board and management team in other investments and have continued to invest along that journey. You'll see over the 12-month period there, we've traded in a range between 4 and 11 cents. We've had some recent good news which explains the uptick, and I'd like to say the Mount Isa region is hotting up in terms of copper interest amongst many players. In terms of Mount Isa and where we are literally surrounded by world-class Tier 1 deposits. Mount Isa, George Fisher, Cannington, these names are familiar through many, many decades of exploration and development in Australia. What I think is important for investors to understand is in more recent times there have been new money coming into this region. So Fetch Metals, located out to our east, recently acquired the old projects from the White Range Copper Project for in excess of $50 million. Comet Resources acquired Mount Margaret for circa $50 million. Yesterday, Aeris last week they announced the transaction for the Roundup assets at Mount Colin, which sit on neighbouring tenement holders. Carnaby have raised money recently on the back of their Nil Desperandum discovery, with Oz Minerals now sitting on the register. So this is one of Australia's hottest copper exploration provinces as we head into a world short of copper supply and future projects. And I think where we sit as a company with some 400,000 tonnes of copper equivalent metal within the portfolio, I think we're well positioned to capitalise on that. Our strategy is based on exploration, and it is around finding enough copper here to have our own standalone development scenario, and that is what we're actively exploring at the moment. Additionally to that, we still have a view that this region holds the potential for a standalone world-class Tier 1, Tier 2 type discovery. So we're active on both of those fronts, looking to unearth a big discovery at the same time advancing what we already have. We've had recent extensions to our Kalman deposit, as well as some exploration success at the likes of Ajax, Lakeview. We've got some really exciting targets that we're currently drilling at the moment, and I'm looking forward to sharing some information on that in the near future. We have a joint venture with Sumitomo Metal Mining Oceania over approximately 300 square kilometres of tenure there. And as I said before, we've built a dominant position here. It's taken us a decade, predicated on the fact we're focused on 2 big fault structures here, which we believe have been lightly explored through history. I had hoped to share our most recent exploration results with you at this conference. Unfortunately, the laboratory couldn't meet the timeline. We have some 3,000 metres of RC drilling backlog within the laboratory at the moment. I expect those results to be around in the next 7 to 10 days. We're currently drilling a high impact EM conductor at our Ajax East prospect, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So whilst I don't have immediate news to share with you today, I thought it was really important to look at some of the assets in our portfolio and something that we haven't spoken a lot about in detail. Our Kalman deposit is our cornerstone asset that accounts for nearly 80 to 90% of our metal. Has an in-ground valuation in excess of $6 billion Australian of metal inventory there already. And according to S&P Global's list of assets with greater than 1 million tonnes of ore, it's the world's 3rd highest grade molybdenum project that sits undeveloped today. Why is that important? Well, molybdenum today is trading at $46,000 per tonne. So when you consider what the equivalent value in that metal is, molybdenum in this particular project is quite encouraging. Our recent work around Kalman, we hadn't drilled it for 5 years. We drilled it recently in December last year. We reported some results out of there, and we think there's a potential to add tonnes to the existing resource there. So not only is it open at depth, where you can see that really nice shiny chalcopyrite, 20% plus copper has come from, it's also open to the north, close to surface, shallow, broad zones of mineralisation. I think there's some easy wins to be had there in the coming 6-month period. In terms of those results, you'll notice there the copper equivalent numbers reported. It's really important, as I said, molybdenum trading at near record highs. The equivalents at shallow depths make this, I think, quite interesting and quite persuasive to think about moving forward. As I said, it remains open to the south and also to the north. When you have a look at our drilling and what we've recently done, you'll see the 4 holes highlighted on the screen there, the blue dots to the north. When we've drilled them, we've identified zones of mineralisation that exist to the south that simply hadn't been drilled to the north. And that's the type of easy exploration success that we've been having at Kalman, and we'll look to do so in the coming drilling programs. In terms of what we have there, the current copper market at 9,600 per tonne, and as I mentioned, the high molybdenum prices, we really have a potential, without doing any more drilling here, to re-examine the potential of the Kalman deposit through looking at some selective mining scenarios, updating obviously current metal prices along with the current cost structures, but also potential to really optimise this project through the use of ore sorting and really cut down what's required to, from a cost perspective, in processing that ore. Where we sat before, we sat between Mount Isa and Cloncurry, so bitumised highway 30 kilometres away from this particular region. Power-related infrastructure there, obviously a copper smelter in Mount Isa. These are the types of projects, as the world looks for new copper supply, that can potentially fill that gap. Now, this is the exciting part, and what I think a lot of our investors are really interested and in tune with at the moment. It's our exploration strategy here and where we're really focused on. I mentioned that highway between Mount Isa and Cloncurry running through the northern part of our tenement. Kalman sits down to the south down here. It's a 20-kilometre radius you can see here. In terms of our projects and our other JORC resources, Elaine to the north, Jubilee, which we own 51% of, and the Overlander deposit down here to the south. The first part of our strategy in building out sort of a development scenario is really focusing on this northern corridor. You can see our joint venture with Sumitomo Metal Mining in the burnt orange section. The lighter orange colours are 100% hammer owned, and we're having success right the way through this region. And what is that success? Well, what originally drew us here was our success in that joint venture last year at a prospect called Trafalgar. You can see here a really interesting magnetic trend running to the north, and the sort of border of the JVs here, running all the way through to our resources up around Elaine and also Jubilee. This whole trend, we think, is highly prospective for further mineralisation that has really been lightly explored. Prior to our work at Trafalgar, this whole trend here, which is about 4.5 kilometres from Trafalgar or Victory at the south through to the Springs, had 2 drill holes into it for 130 metres of total RC drilling. When you have a look at this trend, that story is repeated all the way through here, and it's prospects around Lakeview and Ajax where we're starting to have some success. We've successfully identified EM conductors and some good-looking mineralisation. In terms of that mineralisation, our first hole into Ajax, 11 metres at 5%, plus 2.5 grams per tonne of gold from only 24 metres. What's really significant about this is the EM conductor that we identified 350 metres away from that original drill hole at Ajax. You can see this large plate here measuring 500 metres by 500 metres. Width unknown, not a lot of graphite in the region, a really strong EM conductor, 3,000 Siemens. It's our view that this is likely to represent some sort of sulphide body here, either pyrrhotite or hopefully some chalcopyrite, which we've seen in this original hole. We've followed up nearby at Ajax. I mentioned that 3,000 metres of RC drilling. There's about 1,000 metres here across 6 holes. We're still waiting for the results from these. But a really lightly explored trend with, I think, a lot of potential. In terms of what you're looking at, this is some old drilling that was done nearby by CRA in the 90s, so 300 metre holes. At the time, they weren't aware of the depth of this EM target. They saw some pyrrhotite in the hole here along with some chalcopyrite, so 10 metres at 0.14% copper, 14 at 0.3% copper. This zone remains untested. We're putting a diamond hole into that as we speak, and I expect to have some news out from that particular target over the next week or so. And this is a picture of the trend, or a drone shot of the trend, as you can see here at Ajax. Pretty flat countryside. As I said, not a lot of work done through here. This is typical of our tenement portfolio in the Mount Isa region, amenable to exploration, landholders that are happy for you to do work through here, and a really positive relationship with the Indigenous community in the area too. So this is our focus, and this is part of that sort of broader trend that we've got of mineralisation through here, and we're looking to do a lot more work here in the near future. Mention those big systems, those broad targets, and what we're aiming for. A big IOCG target at Overlander. Again, following our neighbours' success in drilling an IP system, we refocused our attention to the Overlander deposit, where we had already defined a large IP anomaly here, sitting below our resource here, and sat here for the best part of 5 years untested. A lot of copper through this region. This unit out here is a rhyolite unit that also contains lower grade mineralisation, but sitting below both sets of mineralisation was a large IP anomaly. And as we've seen through the success of drilling IP anomalies, we've drilled a target through this area in the past 3 months, and again is part of our news flow coming up as those assays start to get returned from the laboratory. This is a big system, lots of copper in this region. The source of it's still unknown and lightly explored for the amount of copper through here. So again, this is another great target and an example of the type of targets that Hammer's continuing to test through our time in Mount Isa. Touch a little bit on our joint venture with Sumitomo Metal Mining. They're earning a 60% interest by expending $6 million over a 5-year period. We've really focused to this stage along that Trafalgar trend in the mineralisation. Recently completed some initial IP surveys through the area, and you can see the correlation here between the good mineralisation that's been intercepted and the IP. So we see IP as being an effective tool to define mineralisation, and we'll be embarking on more IP surveys in May. We've recently completed diamond drill holes at prospects at Mount Phelp and also within the Trafalgar deposit. So again, some more news flow for our shareholders to look forward to. What's coming up? We're really busy. We've got EM crews on site. We've got an IP crew rolling up to site soon. We've had soil surveys. We've had a drill rig since December. So that's some 5 months now, nearly 6 months of a drill rig on site. We continue to be aggressive with our programs and continue to look to add copper to the inventory that already sits there. We've got new drilling planned at Kalman, so hopefully an extension to that resource, whilst we also look to test some of the other systems that we're getting some positive responses from EM and IP. The joint venture there, we've detailed all of this news in previous announcements, so again, a very active period coming up in the joint venture as we look to drill further metres. I've really run out of time to talk about our West Australian projects. We have some 300 kilometres of tenure, again surrounded by world-class mineral gold deposits here. We continue to do work in this region. We've got some 4,000 soil samples in the laboratory at the moment, and we'll be looking to set up some new targets here, as well as drilling out some existing gold hits that we've had where we think we can have some success in defining small JORC gold resources. So it's a really active time coming up in the company, really busy in Mount Isa in Queensland, lots of drilling happening, lots of results to be delivered, and hopefully some success. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Dan. We'll keep an eye out for those